Hello there guys, welcome to one of my live videos, and today I'm just be officially updating you on some more latest news. According to recent reports, Manchester United have been told that we will win the Premier League and the Champions League within the next 3 years if we was to recommend Max Allegri to the football club. Now, obviously we do know there's been a lot of speculation going on about Max Allegri for at least now the last 3 to 4 weeks, because I think he's actually not interested in taking the mantle on at Manchester United. So I think we've actually identified him as our primary candidate. Now, I did say, we have got a list of managers on our agenda, who could replace Solskjaer at the football club, but Max Allegri is our top priority. Now, like I mentioned recently, Max Allegri has demanded quite a few things if he is to become Manchester United's next permanent boss, and obviously if he was to be recommended in, he would be the club's fifth permanent manager since the Alex Ferguson era. So he reportedly has demanded, he wants to bring Mario Mandzukic to Manchester United. He also wants to bring Emre Can to Manchester United, and he also said the other week, I think, that he wants to recommend Patrice Evra as one of his coaching staff. Don't forget, Patrice Evra is a former Manchester United player, so take that into account. But yeah, I don't think Max Allegri will beat Manchester United by January, like I mentioned, because I think we'll still be with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer until January. But like I mentioned, Max Allegri has got that managerial experience. Like I mentioned, he's been managing for just over 16 years now, is it, if I'm right? Because he began his managerial career in 2003. Recent reports did indicate out as well, saying that for quite some time Max Allegri has been learning English in preparation for his potential move, because obviously he's never managed in the Premier League. He's actually so far spent the entirety of his managerial career in Italy. Also spent the entirety of his playing career in Italy. He only stepped down as Juventus manager at the end of last season, so he hasn't been managerless for that long. Obviously, Max Allegri had a 5-year tenure with Juventus. Obviously, led Juventus to 5 consecutive Serie A titles. Also, won. He won. For Copenhagen Italians, and also got Juventus to 2 Champions League finals. But obviously, Juventus had lost both finals. But yeah, there has been a lot of talks about Max Allegri going on. It recently said as well that he had been in negotiations with the football club over his salary in that, and he reportedly said, if Max Allegri was to come in, he would earn around 6.5 million a year at Man United. Maybe even more than that. But like I mentioned, my perception on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, like I do keep mentioning, he's not the right man for Manchester United, and I do hate to say that, because, he's actually a club legend. He was a great player for Manchester United for 11 years, and, he flourished under Alex Ferguson's guidance, and, Solskjaer has actually got that proven pedigree as a player. And obviously, before we recommended Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in, don't forget, we was in from Mauricio Pochettino for a long time. There was also a lot of speculation at the time about Zinedine Zidane coming in. I think it was during the time he was managerless. But obviously our preference was Solskjaer, because obviously he was a cheaper solution, and plus he knows the traditions of the football club. But the element of concerns I have got about Solskjaer is that he hasn't got any intuition on how to manage a big football club like Manchester United. Like I've said, he hasn't really got that managerial experience, because obviously before he came to Manchester United, he was at Mould. He won a couple of Norwegian titles with Mould. Obviously, before he was at Mould, he had a really short tenure with Cardiff. He actually began his managerial career with Cardiff, only lasted around 29 or 30 games for Cardiff, because obviously he ended up getting Cardiff relegated. And some Manchester United fans fear, maybe not many, but some of them do fear that, if we are to keep Solskjaer for the remainder of this season, that he could replicate at Manchester United, what he did with Cardiff. I can't see the club getting relegated, like I mentioned, because the club's too big, and, these too much money and that into the football club. But Solskjaer's pedigree, is just not really good. Obviously, Solskjaer and Ed Woodward have got the same perceptions, because Solskjaer himself, feels as though he's the right man for Manchester United, to take the club in the right direction. He also has never felt, since he got recommended in, that the job has been too big for him at Manchester United. And Ed Woodward, he's still insisting that he's backing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 100%, despite our disastrous start to the season, because, we are enjoying scoring our worst start to a Premier League season since 1989, which is obviously around 30 years ago now. We are 9 games into the Premier League season. There's still obviously plenty of time for things to be turned around, and that there's still obviously around 29, 30 games left of the season. So there's plenty of time, to turn things around. But, 9 games into the season, we've only registered 10 points from a possible 27. And we obviously know that's nowhere near good enough, to our standards. And I did say, reflecting on the size and the potential of this club, we should be much more of a commanding position, than we're in now. But, everything needs to improve at Manchester United. The home form needs to improve. The away form needs to improve, because it's 11 away games now that Solskjaer's had without a win at Manchester United. The last time we won away from home, obviously, was the game against PSG last season, when we did produce that miraculous comeback, if you do remember rightly. We also need to start creating more chances as well, and we need to have that clinical element, because we're not being clinical enough in front of goal. We've only managed 10 goals in the Premier League this season in 9 Premier League games. So in the games we have managed to score in this season, we've scored 1 goal in every game except the Chelsea game, because obviously we scored 4 against Chelsea at the beginning of the season. So we need to start being more ruthless in front of goal, and that's sort of a problem that Man United do need to justify, because it replicates last season, because last season we wasn't ruthless enough in front of goal. But I want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure to become successful at Manchester United, because I do love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a lot, and like I did recently mention on my previous couple of videos I've done, I do credit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he did tactically get it right against Liverpool, and that was a surprise. That it was a surprise solution. Take that into account, because mainly Solskjaer this season has been going with the 4-2-3-1 formation. We know that the 4-2-3-1 formation hasn't been working. So if Solskjaer now is to stick with these different elements that he did against Liverpool, maybe things could turn around at Manchester United. But yeah, we did show some tactical flexibility, which was very, very good, because for the majority of this season, including myself, for the majority of this season, a lot of Man United fans, including me, have obviously been criticising Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tactic, because we have been tactically inept, so far this season mainly. But so there's still certain Manchester United fans, feel that Solskjaer, does need more time at the football club. Overall, Solskjaer has been at Manchester United now for around 10 months overall. Obviously, he's been permanent manager, for around 7 months or 7.5 months, and obviously he's enjoyed difficult 7.5 months at Manchester United, because obviously since he got the job permanently, everything has just seemed to have all gone wrong basically. But when Solskjaer first came in as the interim manager, don't forget, he was the interim manager at Manchester United for around 3 months. And in that 3-month period, he did really, really well. The results were good, the performances were good, he got the best out of his group of players, he exceeded expectations and that. And, my perception was different on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer during that 3-month period, because I thought at that point he was the right man to, to turn Manchester United around. But obviously since he's my perceptions obviously changed, within the 7 months he's been, permanent manager of Manchester United. But he did really, really well in that 3-month period. And, I do credit certain aspects of me do credit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, though. I do credit him for the 3 players. He did bring in during the summer. He recommended 3 good players to the squad. We spent a substantial amount. We spent around £145 million on Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka, and on Harry Maguire. And they've all enjoyed fantastic starts to their Manchester United careers. So I'm happy that we addressed some of the problematic areas during the course of the summer. We got that experienced centre half in that we needed. We still defensively look bad, but not as bad as we were last season. It's good that we also, got that right back in. But for me, we need probably around 2 central midfielders, maybe at least 1. Definitely, because I think, like I mentioned, we are missing that creative impetus in midfield. I think we also definitely need a striker, someone that can lead the lines, and someone that can assure us goals, and someone that can be more effective in the box. But yeah, we've definitely got to think about, getting a striker. So we do need to recruit with players for Romelu Lukaku, because I said, when following the dismissal of Lukaku and Sanchez. Obviously, Martial's just recently recovered from injury. Rashford was injured not too long ago. We look so exposed in that attacking line. But definitely, furthermore investment is needed in the squad. But Man United, we're still very adamant that Solskjaer is the right man at the moment. I think the club have obviously assured that he will get given money to spend in January. But like I did mention, I think we'll do the vast majority of our transfer business next summer. So I think we'll probably look to sign maybe 1 or 2 players in January, but we'll do the vast majority of it next summer. And I did initially say, from my own perception, that we need at least 5 to 6 more signings, if we are to be back, to being a competitive elite level football club. And, I think in the next 3 to 4 transfer windows, our recruitment, has got to be now very, very good, because I think our recruitment's been very, very poor, for several years, and that's why I did mention in that aspect that the board have been a liability for several years, including their poor selection of managers and that. And, I think the board definitely have been a liability, and I think due to our inconsistency, I think the vast majority of the blame stems from the board. I think also everyone needs to take the blame, but most of the blame's from the board, and I think the board do need to assure structural changes at the football club. I also think, a lot of the players are to blame, because they haven't been performing to the standards as we all expected. A lot of the players, do need reality check, and, despite the fact that a lot of players have left since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, I still believe there is more problematic players at the football club that do need to be moved on in January and maybe next summer. But yeah, like I mentioned, we are all aware that a massive rebuild is needed into the football club. The same, we should still give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at least a couple more windows, to see who else he can recommend into Manchester United, because you can still quite frankly say Solskjaer is in the process of rebuilding this Manchester United squad, because obviously the summer was only his first summer with the club. Obviously, the majority of this squad anyway is Jose Mourinho's, because taking into account Jose Mourinho recommended 11 players into Manchester United, and you can say obviously now Solskjaer is inheriting the vast majority of them. But maybe he can turn things around at Manchester United, and I'm I don't think it will happen, but I do want it to happen. But we will see what happens, and we have got games coming up thick and fast. Like I mentioned, we've got like 4 away games now coming up on the trot in all competitions. You've got Partizan Belgrade on Thursday. We go to Norwich at the weekend. There was reports not too long ago saying if we did fail to beat Norwich, that I think it assured that Solskjaer will be sacked, or if he isn't, his job will be in serious jeopardy. It's obvious. I think it's already been revealed anyway how much it will cost Manchester United to sack Solskjaer, and I think we'll probably have to pay around £7 million in compensation to get rid of him, which is around half or just below half, than what we paid to get rid of Jose Mourinho, because we paid around, was it 18, 19, or was it around £20 million to get rid of Jose Mourinho. But, maybe he does need more time. And, you got Ryan Giggs coming out not too long ago saying that he should be given more time. You obviously got Rio Ferdinand saying, the other week, it was during the international break actually, saying that Man United, would be naive to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because a lot of people believe us sacking Solskjaer now or just before Christmas wouldn't solve a lot of problems at the football club, because not all the blame, of course, does stem from the manager. And I think also some of the blame stems from Ed Woodward, because like I mentioned, Ed Woodward has been a liability for a long time, and a lot of Man United fans are also demanding him out of the football club. But like I mentioned, we have got good players in our squad and that, but they're just not gelling together as a team and that. And this is why I mentioned always spending big on players and getting them Galactico players doesn't always guarantee you success, because this is why I did indicate out at the start of the summer that maybe we should orchestrate on being sensible over our recruitment and that. But yeah, it doesn't. Like I mentioned. But yeah, everything needs to improve at the football club. But yeah, we have got games coming up thick and fast. Solskjaer recently also came out as well and defended the club's structure. He insists that Manchester United don't need a director of football, because don't forget, for the majority of the summer, we was in search for a director of football, and I did initially say that's one of the structural changes, we need to see at Manchester United. There was a few former Man United players linked with the role, and obviously, like I mentioned, there was recent speculation about Edwin van der Sar. Yeah, Solskjaer as well, I do credit him because he has got a lot of honesty. He's aware of how bad Man United are doing. Obviously he was satisfied with our performance against Liverpool, and he's actually admitted as well that he did copy Jurgen Klopp's tactics. He did admit that did Solskjaer, but I like what Solskjaer did say prior to the game against Liverpool. He actually had a slight dig at Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool, obviously saying it won't take Man United another 30 years to win another Premier League title. Obviously we haven't won the Premier League now for nearly 7 years, because obviously the last time we won it was obviously in Alex Ferguson's last season back in 2013, and I think that particular season we won it. Quite comfortably. I think we won it by 11 points. But yeah, and like I mentioned, at the start of this season, and I also said it at the end of last season, I said I didn't expect Manchester United this season, to mount any kind of title challenge up or, win the league. Despite the fact, we bought 3 good players in, I still didn't think, we was going to, challenge or win the league, because we know obviously our squad at this present time isn't good enough, to win the league. But I did initially say it's definitely good enough for a top 4 finish. And Solskjaer is aware of the expectations, he has to exceed at Manchester United and that. And I did say our expectations will be to obviously get in that top 4. So in that aspect, we can't get back into the Champions League, because obviously, we failed to qualify for the Champions League last season. And obviously, a club of our stature, should be in Champions League football, and obviously, when you're not in Champions League football, it's going to be hard to attract players to the elite level when you're not in a Champions League football. And this is why I don't think we was competitive enough during the summer. Well, I think this was probably one of the main reasons. But I initially said anyway, our aspirations will be that top 4 in the next couple of seasons, because I just don't think we're good enough to win the league and that. But yeah, we need a couple of windows at least, to try and get the players that we do want. And like I mentioned, a lot of money's been spent at Manchester United in the last, 6 or 7 years since the Alex Ferguson era. I think around, is it £700-800 million that's been spent in all the managerial eras since the Alex Ferguson era, and that's just under £1 billion, and that's not taking into account what was spent under Alex Ferguson. But yeah, but I think now we're orchestrating on maybe spending £250-300 million maybe in the next couple of transfer windows. So that's another substantial amount of money spent. But yeah, like I mentioned, Solskjaer is making plans for January. He has got players on his agenda. I think he is actually still keen on continuing the policy of recruiting young British players, like he did do, of course, earlier on in the summer. But obviously, if Man United are to sign Mario Mandzukic, then obviously he would be willing to break his own transfer policy. A lot of reports were speculating out not too long ago, saying that we've actually reached a verbal agreement with Juventus to sign Mario Mandzukic in January. I think we've identified him as one of our top priorities for January. He's actually a cheap solution, is Mario Mandzukic. He'll only cost the club around £9 or £10 million. Obviously, Man United are prepared to offer him around an 18-month contract. We're prepared to offer him around £4.4 million a year, which equates to around £85,000 a week. The only element of concern about bringing Mario Mandzukic is because obviously he's 33. He couldn't quite say he's past his sell-by date now. He's only got a couple of years, you could say, left in his footballing career. I don't think Mandzukic has played, he hasn't had a minute under his belt this season for Juventus, so he hasn't played a single minute of football under Maurizio Sarri's guidance. He's been there a number of years as Mandzukic. I think he's scored 44 goals in 162 appearances for Juventus in all competitions. But, I think it would be good to see him come in. He could emulate into like a Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He can show the likes of James, Rashford and Martial how to be more effective in the box. So, yeah, there was recent talks about that going on. But yeah, and like I updated you yesterday, in regards to James Maddison from Leicester. This story was actually stemming from David Einstein, who was actually a reliable journalist. He came out and said he was notified by all parties that Manchester United are expected to sign James Maddison within the next year. It's probably more probable that we'll sign James Maddison next summer rather than January. And that nothing's assured that we'll sign him, but that's what reports were saying yesterday. Now I've just been reading recent reports about James Maddison, and it did say that he's set to sign a new contract with Leicester. James Maddison at the moment has got around 4 years left on his current deal with Leicester. Obviously, James Maddison is only 22 years of age. If he came in, he'd address our midfield. He's predominantly an attacking midfielder. He can also play on the left because I think Brendan Rodgers has played him on the left quite a few times. But yeah, this is his second season with Leicester. He's enjoyed a good start to this season. He did really, really well last season in his debut season there with Leicester. Last season, this is a good statistic. He created more chances than any other player in the Premier League. I think he was involved in 14 goals last season. But Leicester did pay around £20 million for him from Norwich last summer. I think he had a good couple of years in the Championship with Norwich. I think a few other teams are tracking him. I want to put into the equation. You've got City that are interested in him, Liverpool, Tottenham that are also interested in him. So he's another player on Manchester United's agenda. But I said anyway, the players, we was in for during the course of the summer. We'll reignite our interest in some of them in January, and we'll wait until next summer for the rest of the players. But definitely further more investment is needed in the squad, like I mentioned. Yeah. But yeah, definitely further more investment is needed. But despite that, we've had a bad start to the season. I still think these players that have stepped up to the plate this season. I think the 3 signs recommended in have done well. Like I mentioned, I think Scott McTominay has done really, really well in that midfield, and McTominay has been a first team regular this season. And to be fair, McTominay has deserved to keep his place in the team. The way he has been performing. In regards to him being a long term solution for Man United, I have got element of concerns about that. These question marks around him. Can he keep the consistency up? And you know what? I hope McTominay can keep the consistency up. If I'm going to be quite honest with you, I'm hopeful that he can. And he's still only 22 years of age, and he has got a lot of development in him. And I've got the same thoughts about Fred of what I've got of McTominay, of what I've got of McTominay. A lot of people criticising Fred. They don't think he's good enough to represent Manchester United. I think he needs more time at the football club. I do agree on the aspects when people say we overpaid for him. I will agree with that. We paid just under £50 million for the player from Shakhtar Donetsk last summer. So he needs more time. Sometimes it takes players quite a while, to settle in. Prime example, when we got Lindelof in, it didn't take him. He didn't settle in straight away. He took him, around over the year, to settle in at the football club. Did Lindelof. Obviously, Lindelof is obviously a comparison to the 3 signs we brought in, because they've seemed to have settled in, really, really quick. But Fred does need to be given more time. And he has had a good couple of games for Man United, as Fred. I will credit him for that. He has played alongside McTominay, quite recently. But he was actually an exceptional player at Shakhtar Donetsk. But yeah, I'll definitely give him more time at the football club. My overarching view on Marcus Rashford is now, I thought he had a really, really good game against Liverpool on Sunday. I'll credit him for that, because he did have a really, really good game. I think he's had 2 good games this season, Rashford. He had a good game on the opening day against Chelsea. Well, I think he actually scored twice, if I can remember rightly, and he had a good game yesterday. But hopefully now this can, Rashford, can, build on that now, and his performances, he can hopefully he can keep these good run of performances up. Well, I'm hopeful anyway. But for the majority of this season, Marcus Rashford has actually been very inconsistent. In comparison to his time, when he first broke into the senior squad. Rashford so far has spent the entirety of his career with Manchester United. He's been a United player since the age of 7. He's risen up the ranks for a lot of years, and he's been in the senior squad with us since 2016. So he's nearly been in the senior squad with us now for almost 4 years. But even though he hasn't performed to the standards as we all expected in that, I still say is a long-term solution for Man United. He's only 21. I think he's 22 at the end of this month. I know Rashford. My perception's changed about Rashford in terms of his positions and that. I did say towards the back end of last season that I thought he was more effective in that central position, but now my perception has changed. I think he's probably better playing out on the flank, because obviously Martial, in my opinion, seems to be more effective in that central position. But we've got around 3 attackers that can play in the number 9. You've got Greenwood that can play in the number 9, Martial and Rashford. But Martial is more of the standout player in that number 9 position. Rashford sometimes can play well in that central position. I saw glimpses of how good he can be against Liverpool. He was getting some good opportunities. His goal was good. He was getting some decent runs in behind, and he was, causing problems for Liverpool. But yeah, so hopefully, now Rashford, can start putting, some good performances in. Well, I'm hopeful anyway. My opinions on Jesse Lingard is that, he's been out with a hamstring problem. He's also another player that needs to step up to the plate, because I think he's been very, very poor, for quite some time, especially this season. And like I mentioned, reflecting on his status at the football club, Lingard should be putting much more better performances out. But I have been, very, very disappointed with him. I think the vast majority of the players have actually, been disappointed in that. But some of them have actually, performed quite well. Take into account as well, Manchester United have had a lot of injuries. The good news is that Martial now is back from injury. Don't forget, before he came on against Liverpool, he obviously now missed the last 5 or 6 league games for Manchester United with injury. And like I mentioned, we do know how much of an imperative player that Anthony Martial is. We know he brings that fluidity in that attacking line. He predominantly plays out wide on the left, but like I mentioned, he's more effective centrally. And now if Martial can avoid sustaining any more injuries, and he can, start, scoring goals, and that, I think he can score from 15 to 20 goals this season. He's only 23 years of age. Martial has still got a lot of years ahead of him. Don't forget to take that into the equation. But still hasn't quite emulated to that level as yet. But it's good that he's back from injury. And I think, there should be more players expected to, come back from injury, by the time, we're playing Norwich, is it on Saturday or Sunday? Obviously, like I mentioned, we've got Partizan Belgrade on Thursday. I think that's a particular game where obviously Allergri In Solsjaker will make a lot of alterations. Well, he's had to make alterations anyway, reflecting on the injuries we've had, but I think he'll go with a lot of the young players against Partizan Belgrade. He'll go with some of the experienced players as well. I think probably Jones and Rojo will play in the game against Partizan Belgrade, but we will see anyway. But like I mentioned, Luke Shaw's been out with injury for quite some time. He's been out since the 2-1 defeat to Crystal Palace's Luke Shaw, and Luke Shaw is a very, very imperative player, and we do know when he's on form, the difference he does make on that left-hand side. I know a lot of people mention about Luke Shaw being injury-prone, and he is injury-prone, is Luke Shaw. Nowhere near to the extent of Eric Bailly, because, he's not. Eric Bailly's sustained a lot more injuries. But Luke Shaw, prior to his injuries and prior to his bad spell he had under Mourinho, he's done really, really well. He's had a good career with Man United. He's been here more or less the same amount of time as Martial's been here, I think, as Luke Shaw. And he did win the double player of the season last season, reflecting on his impressive performances. I don't know if he's going to be available, by the way, for Thursday or for Norwich, but I think he should be now close to regaining full fitness, should Luke Shaw. Bailly, we can definitely assure he won't be playing, because we know he's out until the end of the year with a knee injury. Fosu-Mensah is still out with injury. Matic, of course, has been out over knock injury. I think Matic is one of the players that definitely needs to be moved on in January or next summer when his contract, currently expires. Even though Man United do have an option to extend it by a further year. Matic has played in quite a few games this season, mainly due to the absence of Paul Pogba. But he's initially lost his place in the team, mainly due to his inconsistency. And I just think, Matic is too slow. Matic is too slow. He's too slow. He's too predictable. He makes that midfielder look totally imbalanced. And like I mentioned, I think any of our midfielders are at this present time anywhere are better options than the Man United Matic. Matic is now into his third season at Man United, and he's not actually far away from making over 100 appearances for the football club. We paid around £40 million for him from Chelsea back in 2017. Again, we overpaid for Matic. We did overpay for Matic because at the time we actually recommended him in. Under the Jose Mourinho era, he wasn't even our first choice signing. I believe he was like our third choice signing. But yeah, he's been out with a knock injury. But he actually, could be available to play on Thursday because these are the particular games where Matic will get more chances. And yeah. Alex Tuanzebe, as you all know, has got a hip injury. Maybe he will be in line to play on Thursday. Well, he actually should have played in the game against Liverpool, but obviously, due to the hip injury, he had sustained before kick-off. He couldn't, so obviously, Marcus Rojo had taken his place in the team. Like I mentioned, I've been very, very impressed this season with Alex Tuanzebe. I've been very, very impressed with him in the games, obviously, he has played in. And I think, he's one of the young upcoming players that will become a success at the football club. And like I've mentioned to you guys on my recent videos, I think, Greenwood, Tuanzebe, I can definitely assure they'll both become successes. I'm not too sure about, some of the other young upcoming players and that because I've got some element of concerns about, certain young upcoming players. Like I mentioned, reports came out the other week. They did come out the other week, did reports saying that, we could consider or we will consider loaning Angel Gomez, Chong and Jimmy Garner out in January because maybe we feel as though that they're not good enough to represent the football club or they're not getting the opportunities that they would like or maybe just loan them out to get them a bit more experience. But that would be a good piece of business from the club if we did get loan some of the young upcoming players out. But yeah, it would be a really, really good business and that. Like I mentioned, Diego Dalot's out with injury. I don't think, he will be back for Thursday, but I don't think he will be anywhere. He's actually sustained quite a few injuries this season, Diego Dalot. He's obviously one of our backup options at that full-back position. I think he's out with a groin problem, is Dalot. Dalot, again, like I said about Fred earlier on in the video, I think he needs more time at the football club. We only got Diego Dalot last summer from Porto for around, was it 19 or 20 million pounds. But yeah, he's also, out with injury. But yeah, I've had quite a few injuries, this season. That obviously, Paul Pogba as well. Like I mentioned, he's missed missed 6 of the last 8 games. With injury, as Paul Pogba will obviously take that into account. He's had an ongoing foot injury that's been surrounding the player now for a matter of weeks. But yeah, I think it's been revealed, well, I think he revealed it himself, that he's actually close now to regaining full fitness. So maybe won't start on Thursday, but maybe could be involved in the game. But I think it should be assured that Paul Pogba will be back for Sunday against Norwich. Yeah, and Paul Pogba obviously now he's into his, he rejoined Man United from Juventus back in 2016, and we paid 89 million. He's nearly now into his 4th season as a Manchester United player, and analysing the majority of his career with Man United since he rejoined from Juventus, he's been mainly inconsistent in comparison to his time, when he was at Juventus. But yeah, he's still an imperative player though, is Paul Pogba. We have seen glimpses of how good he can be. You know, we mainly saw the best of Paul Pogba in that 3-month period when Allergri In Solsjaker was the interim manager. Don't forget, you know, Paul Pogba's still 26 years of age. He's still young. He's still got a lot of years ahead of him. But I still believe his perception hasn't changed. I still think he wants to go to Real Madrid in January or next summer, like he did do basically for the entirety of the summer. And if we do get rid of Paul Pogba, you know, we'll generate a substantial amount for his departure and that. You know, we'd definitely get over £100 million for him, because during the course of the summer, we demanded that we wanted around £180 million for him. Obviously, you know, Real Madrid were reluctant to pay that much for him, because Real Madrid themselves, during the course of the summer, you know, spent a substantial amount. You know, there was a lot of talks the other week, you know, about Man United possibly, you know, extending Paul Pogba's contract. Obviously, Paul Pogba, on his current contract at the moment, you know, he's got 2 years left on it with an option of a further year, and he's on around £290,000 a week at the moment on his current contract. And in that aspect, he's still one of the highest paid players at the football club. Is Paul Pogba. But there was reports the other week saying that Paul Pogba was demanding £600,000 a week from Manchester United. £600,000 a week equates to around £30 million a year. So I think this is what him and his actual agent Mini Aliola were demanding. You know, he's been out with injury and that. But yeah, so some of them, if not all of them, you know, should be back, you know, for Thursday against Partizan Belgrade. So like I mentioned, you know, I don't really know much about Partizan Belgrade, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. I know they're obviously Serbian, they're sitting 5th, I think, in, you know, their league. Obviously, I think the only previous occasion that Man United played Partizan Belgrade, I think, was back in 1965-66, which is around 50 odd years ago now, and that was in the European Cup semi-finals. Obviously, it was 2-legged. Partizan record in the Europa League at home is quite good. They're unbeaten in 11 home games in European competition. We're actually unbeaten ourselves in 13 Europa League games. You know, I think the last time we lost in the Europa League was it against Fenerbahce back in 2016. But yeah, you know, and you know, we're level at the moment with Partizan Belgrade. We've both got 4 points each. But yeah, you know, I'm looking forward to the game. But you know, we've played 2 games in the Europa League so far. You know, we beat FC Astana 1-0. We drew with AZ Alkmaar 0-0. I actually said that was one of the worst performances I've seen so far this season from Manchester United. So I've got doubts. I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you know, like I mentioned, he's going to turn things around at Manchester United, like I said. I don't think he's the right man. And that, like I mentioned anyway, you know, regardless of who our manager is, you know, they can't invoke Ferguson's legacy at the club. You know, definitely Solskjaer, you know, can't invoke Ferguson's legacy, you know, to save him at Manchester United. But I said I'm hopeful that this team at this day and age now can replicate, you know, what the team did under Alex Ferguson. But we'll just never be the team, you know, that we currently was. You know, it's worse under the Solskjaer era, you know, than what it was under the Jose Mourinho era. You know, it's even worse than it was under the David Moyes era, you know, to be quite honest with you. And like I mentioned, Man United have made mistakes, you know, in the last, 6-7 years. I think one of the mistakes was getting rid of Ander Herrera. That was a mistake. I was more infuriated that we let him go on a free transfer, but you could arguably say that Ander Herrera was one of our best players since Ferguson era. You know, another mistake for Man United was giving Solskjaer the job. I feel sorry for him in a way, because I think the club have put him in a very, very difficult position. One mistake Alex Ferguson made was recommended David Moyes in. I think at the time Ferguson's preference should have been probably like Jose Mourinho instead of David Moyes. You could arguably say if we'd have got Jose Mourinho in after Alex Ferguson, then maybe, you know, it would have been a different scenario with Manchester United. So you can also take that into account. But yeah, definitely, you know, where the football club have made mistakes. You know, I think not getting rid of Ed Woodward's also a mistake at the moment, because we haven't got rid of him yet. You know. But yeah, so that's really everything to update you with. Like I mentioned, the Partizan Belgrade Manchester United preview will be coming up either late, it'll be coming up this evening, or it will be sometime tomorrow, as always. And I always, enjoy doing these videos with you guys. I'm not far away now, by the way, from making it to 2,000 videos. But everyone who's obviously subscribed to my channel, and that thank you for all your support. But yeah, so everyone will, what I've said on this video and what I've said on my other videos, and that some people will have different perceptions to me. Some people will agree with me. Some people will disagree with me regarding what I've said about Solskjaer at the football club and that. But that's just my own opinion. Like I mentioned, everyone is allowed an opinion on what they think. Like I mentioned, I want Solskjaer to last at Man United. I want him to become a successful manager at the club, but I just can't see it happening. But in reality, I don't think he's going to succeed at Manchester United, because I just don't think he's good enough for this football club. That's my opinion on that. But yeah. So anyway, guys, like I mentioned, drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do consider subscribing, as always, like I mentioned, and take care, God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.